Well, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's all about life, love, and the pursuit of happiness, and it's time to go inside EMS. I am your host, Chris Cebollero, and with me, back from the EMS World Tour, he is the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour. The ladies know he's the man with the power. Kelly Grayson, KG, welcome back.
I'm glad to be back. I'm still on the world tour, only it's not the EMS world tour. It's the book promotion world tour right now. So still on the road.
How's that going?
Back.
You got a few books out now. How's that Kindred coming out? If you guys haven't bought Kindred, check it out. What a great read it is. And I got to tell you, I was a little bit shocked that it was so good.
I'm still waiting for your book report to show up on my Amazon reviews.
I'm still waiting for the money you're going to pay me to put that book report
on. Yeah, it's going well. Sales have been good, brisk. The reviews really help. So the more people write reviews, the higher it moves in Amazon sales algorithms. So we're pimping that pretty hard. And I'm going to literary cons and I'll be at the World Steampunk Expo in Lafayette, Louisiana in a couple of months, promoting it and doing a couple of panels there. And it's going to be pretty cool.
I'll actually be in Lafayette next week, as a matter of fact.
Oh, yeah, well, you ought to come by and visit me and take me out to dinner.
That's what I want to do. And so are you close to Lafayette?
About an hour away.
Yeah, I'm not driving an hour to see you. But but the book left an opening. There's going to be more than one, right? I mean,
there will be a trilogy.
It kind of leads you to say, "What the heck, how is this ending this way?" kind of thing. You know, I don't want to give it away, yeah. But
it will at least be a trilogy, if not a series. So we'll see.
Hey, what was that like for you to write something like that? Because I mean, tell people what it's about. But if you don't know what Kindred is about, give them a little bit of background. But I know this is not what we're going to talk about today. But one of the things that I always find, and I like to interview authors, is how did you get the inspiration? But this really goes against the grain. It's not EMS. This isn't an EMS story. It's it's kind of tell them what it's about.
Well, I had always, back in my when I was blogging heavily, I wrote a couple of stories about Some Dude, and everybody in EMS and public safety knows who Some Dude is. And I had fun with it, and I thought, man, there should be an origin story for Some Dude, and there should also be he should have an adversary. So I wrote this little. I started off with the prologue, and that sat on the back burner for a couple 3 years until I decided, look, if I'm going to earn a living writing, I've got to actually write. So I sat down and finished it up. And the gist of the story is that Some Dude is actually an immortal fallen angel, a demon escaped from hell, and there is an archangel in pursuit of him. And the demon can inhabit whoever he wants, and wreak all manner of havoc. Some dude beat up the guy standing on the street corner minding his own business, and some dude sold him the drugs, and some dude did all these things. But he can inhabit whoever he wants, but his adversary has rules he has to follow, and he can only inhabit a host with that host's tacit permission. So they battle throughout time. I couldn't decide whether I wanted to write a Western or a detective noir or a modern medical thriller. So I wrote all three.
Yeah, it's a very good, and it's a great story. And, it gives you the opportunity just to sit back and relax. I mean, we don't always get the opportunity to sit back and relax. So, I mean, but cheers to you, man. And I will write that review. No money needed. It'll be my honor to do that.
You're all right, man. I don't care what they've been saying about you.
But in the next one, I want a little something, a little cameo or something. Chris
you want me to Tuckerize you? You want me to red shirt you?
Yeah, exactly, man. Give me a little something.
You will. Okay, that's the deal. You will die a gory but memorable death in the next novel.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for playing. And then this way, I could play myself if it ever goes to the movie.
There you go.
How about that? So, Kelly, we did have a topic picked out today, but as I mentioned, you've been on the EMS World Tour.
Yeah.
For the past couple of weeks. And of course, we've been mesmerized by the, what's going on in Illinois with the two paramedics that were charged. And we were going to talk about something else, but you didn't have the opportunity to weigh in. And it would be good to kind of hear your thoughts and opinions, and maybe talk about professionalism today, maybe talk about apathy today, maybe talk about every single call that we run on could be the one that's in the news. Right.
Yeah.
So, but your initial thought, I mean, what did you think about when it came out?
Disgust. I was sickened. You know, I always, you hesitate to judge because you weren't there, but the body cam video from the police officer is pretty unequivocal. The EMT who walked in had absolutely no interest in even being kind to the patient or even professional. No assessment done. Her partner stayed outside with the stretcher. I don't know what EMS crew does that when they only have one patient and plenty of help. But it occurred to me that apathy and burnout do not occur in a vacuum. They didn't wake up that morning and decide to be the worst ambulance providers ever, the worst EMS providers ever. This is something that is not a new attitude for them. And having been through burnout myself and not been at my best on some EMS calls, and behaved in fashion that I was later regretful of, I kind of have some sympathy for him as well. But I can certainly say that if they did that on camera, they've been in that situation before, or they've been in that state of mind before, and it's not new. And I don't think you can put all the blame on just them. How is it, as burnout, crispy, non-customer service oriented, apathetic, just plain old apathetic as they are, how is it that they're still working on an ambulance? And the only answer I can think of is they need meat in the seat like every other EMS system in the country. So I think it's a broader commentary on our profession than just one small EMS provider in Springfield, Illinois.
One of the things that I was thinking about as you were talking, because I wasn't really paying attention, but one of the
course,
things that
you never do.
That's right. But it's even different. I'm looking at this, the part in your hair that's really kind of, but you made the comment, that because we've said on this show, don't write anything you wouldn't want to see in the paper. Don't say anything you wouldn't want to hear on the news. And, they were wearing body cams and it didn't make a difference of how they were going to act. Right. But I think that this goes beyond. I think it goes to the point of, when does that one call wind up to be national news? Right. And we have to remember that every time that we get into that ambulance and every time we go do our job, that's the one call that could end up on the news. Right. And I made the comment when we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with Doug and Steve, that where the heck is Ferguson, Missouri? Where the heck is these places, Ferguson, Missouri, and being charged with murder and it's the one call. But when does that happen for any of us? And we've got to remember that every time we get in the ambulance and every time that we go to somebody's house and every time that we interact with somebody, our poor decisions could lead us to national news. And I think that that's something we have to be able to remember. One of the things I'm also wondering about, Kelly, is I think that burnout in EMS and stress in EMS, and I think it's pretty prevalent. And I don't think that it's just one area in Illinois. But as I read the comments that are happening on EMS1, because they keep posting the stories, and I'm reading every single comment, 200 comments, 400, I'm reading them all. And everybody's disgusted and everybody's appalled and everybody has comments to say against people. But I'm wondering, is our career field that pristine that it's only these two people? No. And it makes me wonder that, are we really being honest with ourselves of how we treat people? Because I got to tell you, I was like you. I don't know that I had burnout, but I was just mean sometimes to people in my earlier EMS career. 3 o'clock in the morning, you're calling me for something that you've had for 2 weeks. What are you, crazy? What is this about? You know what I mean? Yeah. And but it's until you learn the honor of what you're doing that you finally change the error of your ways to say, maybe I'm doing this the wrong way, right? But where does this apathy come from? Maybe we start with that. I don't know. We want to spend time talking about this specific case, and we're going to let them be judged, and whatever happens is what's going to happen. But how do we keep this from happening? Where does this apathy come from? And then what's my responsibility as a leader to make sure that I'm not putting you out on the street, just because I need you there?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's not going to fix it, and it's more employee appreciation pizza parties. No one gives a crap. They don't want your pizza. They want respect. They want a better working environment. They want good equipment to work with, and they want a living wage.
What kind of pizza?
I don't care.
No,
I don't care. And look at me. You can tell I like pizza. So I really don't care in this situation. That's something that's not going to be fixed very easily. How many times have I said on this very show that you can work somewhere and be paid well and treated poorly and stay, or you can be treated well and paid poorly and stay, but you cannot do both at the same time. And that crew did not wake up that morning and decide to be crappy EMTs. That was, make no mistake, what we saw in that body cam video was depraved indifference, and it's worthy of criminal prosecution. And in Illinois, it does not require premeditation and malice forethought to be charged with first-degree murder. So, I mean, that was an appropriate charge according to Illinois statutes. But it speaks to a bigger problem in that the burnout and the operational tempo, ever since it was going on before COVID made it much, much worse. And the fact that reimbursement fee schedules and whatnot have not kept pace with the cost of doing of providing care. And our revenue pool for pay and benefits is so small that people are not willing to work in EMS. And you saw the result of two people that obviously don't care about their jobs anymore, and they're out there rendering patient care. The thing is as I can't condemn them as fully as I might otherwise, I can't be righteously indignant because, hell, I've been there too. Not to that extent. But just last week, I vented on social media about a valued repeat customer that I was very frustrated with. I didn't mention any specific details, but I made mention of the fact that if you don't care about your health and doing what's necessary to manage your chronic problem, then why should I? The first 3 or 4 times I took this person to the hospital, I gave them appropriate treatment and pain medication and whatnot. And after the 15th or 16th time, why put out that kind of effort? And that was the wrong thing to say, and that was the wrong attitude to take. And luckily, and I have to give her credit, my Jiminy Cricket called me up and said, take that damn post down. That's not you. That's not the image you want to project. And she was right. There's nothing wrong with venting, but venting in public in a way that demeans you and your patients is wrong. And so I took the post down. So I can see why they could be in that kind of situation. But Chris, you ever think back and go, man, the things I said in front of that cop with his body camera running, God, I hope that never makes it onto the news. Now, I've never, things I've said, I've felt that way about, but I never got in the back of the ambulance and treated the patient with anything less than my best. But there were the private eye rolls and knowing winks and nods that we make sometimes when we know or when we think a patient's complaint is BS. Right. The problem being is that when those things go wrong, and they do go wrong, you don't just represent yourself and your agency, you represent the entirety of EMS. And that's what we need to be aware of. Just not easy to remain aware of that when you're in the midst of burnout.
Yeah. While as you were talking, again, I wasn't paying attention to it at all.
You never do.
But I did pull up, and that's what I was looking for while you were talking. I mean, just a couple of days ago, the case up in Denver with Elijah Wood. Yeah. I'm sorry, Elijah McClain. I apologize.
Yeah. What happened to Frodo Baggins?
But they were indicted by a grand jury on manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide, in the death of Elijah McClain. He died after they were given ketamine and so on and so forth. And when we think about this, I mean, this is becoming standard now, that when we make the decisions that we are responsible for, we could be on the other side of some legal action that is going to be serious for us as providers. And we have to remember that, the job that we do is very important. We're not getting paid tons of money for. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we do it because we have a calling to do it. but it's not worth having to go to jail for. And we've
No.
got to remember, just doing the right thing keeps us from being in a situation where we're going to be indicted for, in this case in Denver, of criminally negligent homicide and manslaughter, right?
Yeah.
Or in the case of Illinois, first degree murder. But, we have to think about this from a professionalism standpoint. When we think about building our professional reputation, it's built on who we are as individuals, who we are as professionals. And, Kelly, I've said before that just because your boss or your agency or, they don't think about you and they don't treat you the right way doesn't mean they take away from who you are as a professional and who you need to be as a professional. And what worries me is that more and more we're going to find, these calls that we're going to think are benign that could turn into something that could ruin our lives forever. And regardless of what happens in the case in Illinois, regardless of what happens in the case in Denver, these people are tagged with this for the rest of their life. And I could tell you that probably these people don't work in public safety anymore. They don't work on trucks anymore. And
if they stay out of jail.
And if it was the one call that makes a difference, right? And we've got to remember to define our professionalism about who we are as professionals and who we need to carry with us for the rest of our life, right? And one call here in Denver, one call here in Illinois is going to change the lives of people, not just the lives of the two paramedics in Illinois, but the family who lost their family members.
Yeah,
they're affected as well. And I don't know what that answer is, man. But as a leader, what am I supposed to do for my people to ensure that they're doing the right things and staying out of trouble?
I think that part of that reflects culture. And I don't want to cast aspersions on a company that I have no familiarity with. But once again, that kind of attitude displayed does not occur in a vacuum. They personally have probably done something like that before, maybe not to that extent, but been less than caring and less than professional before. And if it goes on with that one crew, is it possible it goes on with other crews? Is it possible that it's an endemic thing at that particular agency? We don't know. But what we do know is that you're not going to fix that by coming down on one particular crew and ignoring the elephant in the room, which is, how is this overlooked in our agency culture? Yeah. Nancy, her favorite Peter Drucker quote is, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." Yeah. And you can have a wonderful, noble mission statement, and you can say all the right things, but if your supervisor, your management on down don't display the culture that the agency should embody, the people in the trucks are not going to either.
Yeah, and it's one of the things when you think about vision, that's where we're going. When we think about strategy, that's how we're going to reach the vision. And culture is the behavior of the organization as we go on and reach the vision. And if the agency isn't going to have good behavior, you're never going to reach your vision. So I think that's a good point. Yeah. Kelly, what do you think is the answer to how we handle our partners in these situations? Because you and I have been paramedics for a long time, and we have conversations with our partners, and we say, look, this is the way that we're going to work together. This is the way that we're going to deal together. This is the way that we're going to make sure that we get home safe at the end of the night. When do we break from the loyalty of our partner to say, that's not behavior we're going to have? And I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to talk to the supervisor about this, because I don't know that we kind of follow the leads of our police brethren that we protect, and I'm all for protecting my partner, and I'm all for ensuring that my partner is going to get home at the end of the night and they're going to be safe. But when do I break from that loyalty to say, what you did was criminal, or what you did was neglect, or what you did was... How do we balance that, man? Do we really have to get to that? Or I think I misspoke. I think we really have to get to the point that you're going to go alone, man. Yeah.
Well, you said it right there. Criminal, neglect, willful. those things get reported right then. It's all fine to say what happens on the truck stays on the truck. We know that's not true. And we know that that attitude can't be all encompassing. I tell my partners and everyone I work with for the first time is, if I have a problem with you, I'm going to address it with you first within reason. But that's about attitude, behavior, lack of skills, or whatever, a critique. But if there's something wrong with your outlook, if you do something that is willfully wrong,
what do you mean outlook?
The way you look at EMS in general.
Okay. You're
just not a good fit for our profession. And I know it's arrogant as hell for me to presume what I know is and is not a good fit for our profession. But when something goes so far across the line that it's obvious that someone meant to do harm or meant to punish a patient or did something that was willfully negligent or criminal, that gets reported, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And no, I won't work with you again. Get this person off my truck right now. Yeah. And I'm lucky that I have the seniority in my agency. I could probably make that stick and call a supervisor and say, yeah, I'm not working another hour. This person come find somebody to get on the truck because they're going home. Once and only once. And that person was a bad apple that they had known about for some time, but had just put off biting the bullet. And she wound up shooting herself in the foot and made it easy for them. Yeah. But no, I've never really had to do that. I've had patients, or I've had partners that I've said, no, I'm not going to work with that person again. Don't schedule them on my truck, or I'm not going to pick up an extra shift if I know they're working. The supervisor says, hey, can you cover such and such a shift? Well, it depends. Who's the other person on the truck? Oh, no, I can't cover that, as a matter of fact. And don't ever ask me again if they're on that truck. But yeah, I think that sort of thing, when it's willful and it's wanton, it's just like they say in just culture. Just culture is not you get away with everything, you get a talking to and a slap on the wrist. There are some things in just culture that will get you fired post haste, and that's the same thing. I'm not going to get a supervisor involved unless it's one of those things, or if me talking to my partner and trying to work it out between us fails, then I'll escalate it up the chain. But and the other thing that is just glaring there, aside from the apathy and the lack of assessment and absolutely no care whatsoever, who in the hell in 2023 puts a patient face down on the stretcher?
Oh, that was interesting too, man. I didn't understand that from the standpoint of, what was that? What was that about? But when we think about that, even from that standpoint, is you put somebody face down. I mean, he wrenched him down there as well. But I didn't understand that as why, and it seemed like that was punishment to me. What I mean? It seemed, but again, that's just my opinion. But and a lot of people are making this comment on the Facebook threads and so on and so forth, that who puts people face down. But that's a really great point, and I think that that had to have
somebody that has been pencil whipping their continuing education for 20 plus years, or someone who does not care, and that does not care part fits the definition of first degree murder in the statute.
But here's the thing that I want to touch on as well is they put him face down. They, wrenched him down with the straps, but obviously nobody checked on him the ride to the hospital.
Yeah. I don't know what transpired, but I wonder if he wasn't dead and they didn't know it when they got there.
Where's the vital signs? We got to take vital signs, every 10 minutes on a medical call or whatever that works out to be.
Virtual vitals.
You know what I mean? Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of 120 over 80s going on here, and 80 pulse and 16 respiration.
Yeah.
20 respiration. I'm sorry. But, one of the things that we have to start to think about too is it's not the fact of how they treated him in the house or what they did when he got onto the stretcher, but there was no care given. And I guarantee there's going to be vital signs that were taken on the trip to the hospital, right? And this was a person that seemed to be out of it. Shouldn't have been put face down. Never should your patient be put face down unless they've got something protruding from their back. And
or there have been other, there are a few exceptions, but for general purposes, you're right. Never put your patient face down, but maybe some respiratory problems where proning the patient might be beneficial, or when the patient has severe facial trauma and potential airway compromise. But the key there is they're constantly, vigilantly assessing their patient. And they didn't do that at all in this case.
No, I have to agree with you 100%. But this is one we're going to follow close, Kelly, right? And we're going to see how it's going to play out. But what I want to give to my peers out there in the United States is you have to be able to take care of yourself, right? And hopefully you've got good leadership, and hopefully you've got good vision, and hopefully you work for an organization who respects you. Now, the realization is there's a lot of organizations out there that don't fit that bill, right? But what you have to be able to do is you have to be able to believe in who you are. You took this job. What's your story that got in EMS? Kelly, I always wanted to write a book. How you got in EMS, because it was always that story that got you there. And whether it was you were the patient or whether it was you saw somebody, we all got our story about how we got here.
Well, for me, barber college was too long and all the good Snap-on tools routes were already taken.
So you can really, so good. I mean, that's good to know. But we've got to be able to set our own movement forward in our profession, set our own movement forward, right? And we've got to be able to respect ourselves enough that we're going to do the best job that we can in light of whatever's going on around us, because we don't know the one call that's going to cause us to be on the national news. And that's something that we've got to really pay attention to, and we've got to be able to define our own professionalism. We've got to be able to develop our own reputation, because I'm 57 years old, Kelly, and I got a couple more years, 3 more years, and it's probably it for me that I'm going to semi-retire to Florida on a 70-foot boat in the middle of the Caribbean, and maybe you'll see me every 6 weeks. But for the people who are out there now, I mean, who are 20 years old, 25 years old, 40 years is a long time to work your plan, and you're going to have to carry that professional reputation with you everywhere you go. And we've got to remember that the work that we do is important, but the care that we give isn't worth defining our relationship with our reputation for the rest of our life. And I fear that people don't understand that, man.
Yeah. Well, you've said it on this podcast many times, and I don't think it can be said any better than this. No one else has the ability to determine your attitude but you. You control that. You may work in a crappy environment. You may work with people you don't like or respect, or people that don't like or respect you, but you determine how you approach your job, your life, your patients. Sometimes that is hard to remember when you're in a bad mood and the burnout is creeping up and the red ass has turned to the pink leg. It's spread so far, but you still have the ability to do that. Now, me, I succumb to that occasionally, and I rely on people that I trust and care for me, that to remind me, the better angels of my nature to remind me of that. So, I think all of our listeners should understand that no matter how bad it gets, no matter how many dialysis runs and so-called BS calls you've run that shift, you still have the ability to determine your attitude. But hey, that's what we think. We'd like to hear what you think. Give us your thoughts at the show at ems1.com. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes. Don't forget to go buy Kindred and write a review on Amazon. Shameless plug. But for myself and co-host Chris Cebollero, this dude, thanks for tuning in to Inside EMS. We're going to catch you guys next week.